Good morning guys, it's Adam. How you doing? I just wanted to make this little video while I take you for a bit of a walk here on the beach this morning on the Gold Coast. It's Sunday morning, as you can see. Look at that beautiful sky in behind us. Guys, I wanted to talk to you about something a little bit different today because I know a lot of you have been sitting here for months, or some of you even more than a year, watching my videos, perhaps watching some other videos from other people, many of whom are trying to sell a course or teach you how to make more money, change your life, all that kind of stuff. You know, I myself have been a student of this industry for many years, in fact 2 decades now, more than 2, about probably 25 years I've been studying, you know, personal growth and courses and books and all that stuff, all designed to help us have a better life. And what I wanted to talk to you this morning a little bit about was this concept of choosing yourself. It's kind of a catchphrase that you hear thrown around in this industry a lot, where people say, you've got to choose yourself. It's actually a term that came from one of my favorite bloggers, a guy by the name of James Altucher. And James is a really interesting guy based in New York, who basically built his brand, his personal brand and his business on this concept of extreme honesty and extreme transparency about what he's feeling about life and what he's going through. And as a result of that, he became quite famous and is one of my favorite guys to sort of listen to, because he's sort of fearless in his approach to personal growth and change and life experimentation and all of that stuff. And I want to start this video by sharing something a little bit personal with you, which is one of my earliest lessons about changing your life. Years ago, I used to live in a little house and land package house out in an area called Browns Plains in Brisbane. Now, for those of you who don't know where that is, Browns Plains is about, 40 minutes, I think, from the city of Brisbane, which back 20 years ago was like farmland almost, and it was a new development estate. And I had a job out there working in a 1-hour photo shop, and I really didn't like the area. It was not a great area. It was a rough area, like those new estates that are a long way out from the city often are when they're developing. It's where you go when you're just getting started. And one day I said to my girlfriend at the time, look, what are we doing here? We don't like it out here. Why don't we think about moving our environment? And I remember at the time, it felt like such a big thing to consider. The rent that we were paying, we thought, let's go and have a look in the city. And we went and looked at an apartment in another area of Brisbane called Hamilton, and it was on a road there called Mullins Road, and it was basically just off Coronation Drive. This apartment was not brand new, but it was in an older building, but it had 180-degree views of the city. And we walked into this thing and we figured out that it was about $50 a week extra in rent to be in this apartment. And we looked at each other and we thought, let's go down to Racecourse Road, which is the little cafe district next to that apartment. And we went and had breakfast together, which at that time in my life, having breakfast on a weekday at a cafe was an enormous deal. I couldn't believe that people used to eat at these cafes and spend $20 for 2 people, which is what it cost back then for a coffee and bacon and eggs. I thought it was such a massive luxury, and I remember sitting there watching, older people, when at that time, 40-year-old old people, reading newspapers and having a coffee, and they didn't seem to have a care in the world. And it was such a big deal for me to sit there and have breakfast on Racecourse Road and think about the idea of living in this kind of, floor-to-ceiling, well, it was almost floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking Brisbane City in this posh area called Hamilton. And we just decided to, at that moment, it was a micro example of choosing ourselves. We said, how can we make this change? How can we move into this city and start to, go down to this little cafe district and join the land of the living, which felt to us like home. That was such a, our dream at that time was just so simple, but it still required us to choose ourselves. All our friends lived out in those estates, renting properties. Nobody we knew were in the city with those trendy, educated types that were, living that lifestyle. And so, we made that change. We chose ourselves, and as a result of that, everything changed. We learned early on the very, very strong importance of environment and how environment has such an impact on the way that we feel about our life. Because guys, our life is not a dress rehearsal. This is all we have. Why would you spend it in an environment that's not inspiring to you in this world that we live in today? And it's quite often because we are living within constraints that we don't even realize that we're choosing the life we have. We're choosing to be where we want to be, right? We're choosing. Like, I used to live here. I've lived here on the Gold Coast for many years, apart from the time I went to the US. And I remember coming down the beach here, not far up the beach, just behind me here. I went and visited a friend's house, apartment. He lived right on the beach. He had a one per floor apartment. And I remember walking in there, and he said, "I'm going out for a minute, just hang." And I remember sitting there in his office and overlooking the ocean right on the beach. And I asked myself the same question: why am I not on the beachfront? Like, I live on the Gold Coast. If you live 3 blocks in, it's like a completely different place than living on the beachfront. And again, I realized it was absolutely within my means, with just the tiniest bit of creativity, to get down onto the beachfront. And I immediately moved into a place on the beachfront. And again, I had that reinvigoration, that firing of passion for my own life, which is awesome. And today I just choose to live on the beachfront, and I can't be away from it. I go crazy if I'm not here. So what are you thinking in your life that is preventing you from choosing yourself in large and small ways? You know, large ways, for example, of starting a course like what I've been presenting, or another one that you've sort of been keeping your own, whatever it is. What's been causing you to choose not to do it? What are you telling yourself? What beliefs are in place that are causing you to just continue sitting on the sidelines as opposed to starting? And it could be because you've got to remember, guys, our entire life is what's going on in here. It's these little micro decisions that are happening every moment of every day. And the older we get, the more used to these micro decisions we get, to the point where we almost trick ourselves into thinking that we're not making micro decisions, and we start using the lines like, well, that's just my life now. That's just how it is. That kind of language, when you're young, you have this hope and this sense that the world is yours to mold. And as we get older, we lose that, and we start to just settle, and we start to accept instead of starting to choose better for ourselves. It's such a sad thing that comes with middle age, which a lot of the people who are in our community are. It's a lot harder to find that inspiration and to continue to take responsibility for every aspect of your life. So one of the things that I see in people that actually do choose themselves with our course, and the ones that actually get started, is that they just make this quiet decision to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be one of those people that actually becomes a success story in one of these communities. Now, for many people, that can be an enormous challenge to make that decision, because what happens is all this self-doubt comes in, all those times they bought courses before but didn't do anything come in. But at some point, the best decision to make is to say, I'm going to do this as a side hustle. I am not going to put any pressure on myself. I'm going to make this my little project that in a year from now, I look back and I say to myself, that was a good decision. But the key is, don't put pressure on yourself. This isn't about saying, I'm going to be the superstar, I'm going to go prove it. That's a very young way perhaps to do it. And some of you, that's your style, and good for you. But for me, I remember when I chose myself with Amazon 5 years ago, I was working in my animation company, and I'd seen these courses, and I'd done what you'd done. I'd enrolled or watched guys on the internet that were teaching the stuff back then. And I said, I'm just going to do it as a side hustle. I'm going to make a little bit of an effort every day for a year, and I'm going to see where I wake up a year later with this thing. And it was this tiny change in direction, that little 3-4 degrees of change, and then add time to the thing, you end up over there instead of over there. And it's such a powerful thing. So I guess what I'm really wanting to encourage you guys that have been sitting here watching it, like, look around, guys. This is why I live on the beach. This is life. This is what we're here for. We are here to find out and discover what brings us alive, what makes us happy. What is it for you? Now, in my videos, I don't go and show fancy cars and Lamborghinis and Bentleys and all those things. because it's not what makes me happy, it's not what lights me up. So your only responsibility in life really is to figure out what lights you up as an individual, and then make decisions that move you towards it. Because guys, this is not a dress rehearsal. If you want to go and have an impact in the world, whether that's going and doing some charity work, or whether you want to, travel, if that's your thing, if you want to get into business class airfares and go and see beautiful places in the world, experience Europe in the summertime, or eat at cafes in Italy and get to know the locals or learn a language, that stuff isn't just going to happen. You have to choose yourself, make decisions, and continue toward it. And you hear all this stuff in personal development all the time. Like Tony Robbins says, most people overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate the long term. That's all true. So guys, what I want to encourage you to do while you're sitting here today is to choose yourself without putting pressure on yourself. If this feels right, if you've been watching this video and inside it's been resonating, you go, I could do that, I want you to really just think about what's been holding you back, and then make that little decision to choose yourself without pressure and move forward daily with activity that will lead you to a much better future. In fact, not a future I want for you, but a future you want for you.
If you enjoyed that video, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get all of our great videos as they come out. Thanks for watching, guys.